Thank you, everyone, for being a little patient. Our executive session ran long, and we will go back into executive session after this meeting, and then we'll come out of it just to adjourn. We have some announcements. This meeting is being broadcast on local cable TV and recorded for rebroadcast on local cable channels and on the internet. We want to thank a big thank you out to Barbara Hack for organizing the roadside cleanup and all the volunteers that did that for us. And that was
it was a terrible weekend too.
I know. April 27th and through the 28th. We want to welcome the new Selectman, Rick Parker. Welcome. We want to welcome the new library director, Corinne Flaherty. When will she be starting? Is it July 1st, correct?
That's right. She'll start for about a week and a half of overlap with the outgoing director toward the end of June.
Good. I want to remind everybody that the Garden Club's annual plant sale is this Saturday, May 18th. It's going to be at the Town Hall across from the training field. It is indoors. I know it's going to be a gorgeous day, but they have it indoors these days, and there's going to be a bake sale accompanying that plant sale, and it starts at 8:30 and it will go to 11:30. So special events permits request. Angus?
Yeah, we have one request, actually 3 different dates requested by the Riding Driving Club. Kathy Fury is here if you have any questions, but everything checks out in terms of my office. We've got all the details and the insurance information all been provided.
Did you want to say anything, Kathy, or?
No, just in case you had any questions.
Okay.
It's our usual event, so.
Perfect. Rick? Anything?
Looks good to me.
Archie? Do you want to make the motion? No? Archie, please.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the horse trials planned for July 7th, October 13th, and the adventure trail ride on September 8th for the West Newbury Riding and Driving Club.
Second. Any questions and or discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Request for street opening permit, 9 Twig Rush Lane. Thank you, Kathy. Enjoy.
Bye, Kath.
The street opening permit, likewise, everything's all checked out, and when reviewing the agenda with Glenn last week, he asked why is this still on the agenda, because as you know, the bylaw was amended. Until the bylaw gets back from the Attorney General, we have to work with the old bylaw, so you'll continue to get these street opening permits until the recent town meeting amendments are signed off by the AG's office.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the street opening permit for 9 Twig Rush Lane with all the stipulations by the DPW director.
Second. If there's any discussion, questions? If none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Meeting with the Historical Commission representatives regarding recent correspondence, A and B. Let's start with A. Hello. If you could state your names for the people at home, please.
I'm Jennifer Conway.
I'm Lisa Brown.
Thank you. Welcome. I'll kick it off to you. Do you have,
Do you want Jen to go first? I'm not sure. Was A the?
No, it's A. It's A. We're going.
Okay.
It's A.
So,
The historical designation.
Yes, so we would like to pursue 3 historic districts in town. This is based on the first historical survey that we have done, and they were recommended by the consultants. One is Manufacturers Row, which hits the 300s in Main Street. Another is the Trinfield Historic District. This is already a Massachusetts local historic district, so this is a different national registry. And third is the Way to the River Historic District. What this would entail is we would bring in the Massachusetts Historical Commission twice to talk to residents that live within those districts. There are no, there's nothing that has to be done by homeowners. This is all just a very good historic designation for the city. And homeowners are able to opt out if they don't want to be in that district. We just have to have a majority saying that they would like to create the districts,
Majority of whom?
homeowners in that designation.
I'm sorry.
How does
Yeah.
that?
How does that impact the district?
Yeah.
Is it just that property
It just,
that's on
yes,
there?
it's just that property, so they would be taken out of the actual listing, you know, if someone else moved into that home, they could actually opt back in.
Is it one vote per house, or how does that work, or?
I believe so, we will have to get more designation on how the vote works from the Historical Commission in Massachusetts.
So, it's hypothetically, just say the Way to the River District is created. 1 Shea, 760, 72, 74, 76, and 80. Are there any restrictions on those homeowners? Because I hear stories like in certain districts in Salem, if you're in a particular district, you can paint your house white, you can paint your house any color you want as long as it's white.
There are different registries. I don't know how they're set up. I know some are neighborhood districts, and the neighborhood association within the city has a greater jurisdiction around that.
Mhm.
There are no restrictions on homeowners with this registry as a national.
So they can put siding on it, a different type of siding, they can put windows, they just,
Windows or-
those are the questions people ask me, because they get nervous that I can't change my windows, I can't, if I wanted to put replacement windows in, I would have to do it specific. I don't know.
And we would hold 2 meetings prior to this, to have the homeowners come. We would invite the Massachusetts Historical Commission, who would help us get this national registry to answer questions twice.
So what, I have no objection to it, but what's the benefit to?
It's a good question. Or the town.
Or to the town?
The process can, for any properties that are owned by the state, we may be able to get funding and grants for preservation and maintenance. And, there are tax credits for income producing properties, although I don't believe any are in that. And just honestly, it would provide historic designation to the town and provide the town with that designation that we have this historical prominence.
Okay?
I just add that if there's a project that would require.
Yeah, you need to get that. Oh, it's not on.
There's a project
It's not on.
that's
Oh my God, it's not been on all this time?
Press the, nope, the one on top. It's on, but the microphone.
At the bottom, yeah.
There
There
you
you
go.
go.
Thank you.
If there's a project that requires an environmental impact statement of some sort, the fact that it's on the register is additional protection. So for instance, the training field became a state, which is more strict, district, because people were concerned about road widening on Main Street. That was why that happened. So it's a way to keep development by the government, at least make them consider that this is a historic district.
If they want to put like 95 extension through here or something.
Yes, or I don't think a natural
Whatever.
gas pipeline is coming through, but
Oh,
that
so,
would
oh,
be-
yeah, that, yeah, okay. Okay. Any other okay, so why are you here tonight? What do you need us to do? What kind of acts? Do you need us, like a letter of support? What are you looking for us to do?
I think we were looking for your support to move forward so that we have the ability to start reaching out to the homeowners and trying to schedule the historical commission.
Okay.
Can I ask Angus if he feels this is going to be another
Another thing that you're
another
gonna,
ad that you, another
No,
thing
this
you have
is-
to do?
No, everything up to this point, the commission's done all of the legwork, and I think we'll continue to. And as they said, the national district designation is really ceremonial designation, or kind of it's a prestigious thing, but it's not a regulatory thing like a state historic district would be. So that I would have some concerns in terms of who administers and so forth. But this is not a heavy lift.
Is
It's
there-
documentation which the commission's offering?
Is there ongoing, annual report or biannual report or anything like that that needs, okay.
So does the motion need, what does the motion need to be, just to make sure that we do it right? I don't know, that we support,
We support the application for the,
yeah, we support,
Establishment of the 3 historic districts.
yeah, correct. Okay, that would be a motion. Any second?
second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Okay, B.
B is really for the purpose of information to let you know about this and see if you have any objections or we can go forward. Part of, I think, one of the most interesting things that needs to be preserved in West Newbury is the fact that we had the first African-American town moderator, who was an extraordinary person
In the Commonwealth,
in the Commonwealth.
yeah, not in West Newbury, but in the.
In the entire state of Massachusetts. And he
Yep.
was very involved in civil rights and in affordable housing. He was the first African-American department head in the state. He was the first African-American moderator for the Congregational Church in the state, a very extraordinary person who we feel deserves recognition. And we were proposing a plaque in the town hall, the old town hall. But we want to make sure, that's a very special building. We want to make sure that that would be okay to begin to pursue. And the idea would be that we would ask for CPC money to do this.
Mhm.
It would not cost, probably under $1,000, no question. But we were thinking for the fall town meeting, we could request that. Right now,
Mhm.
unfortunately, Mr. Steele is known for the dump, which is on your agenda. So he deserves more credit than that.
He had a daughter. Is she still living?
I have not researched, I believe, yes, she married someone named Ireland and lived in New York, and that's the last, but I can probably find that out.
Part of this.
You should talk with Jeff Brackville for that. Jeff Brackville leases land from her.
Oh, okay.
Christmas Tree Farm.
I'll ask you about that.
So that one thing I would ask, that would try to reach out to her.
Oh, yes, I think that makes sense.
Well,
I thought it was really, really interesting and really a great idea, yeah.
it's terrific.
Yeah, I think it's great research you did. I mean, I knew that there was a story behind him, but because it's just down the street from where I live, but I didn't know the details that she got out. It's fascinating.
He is fascinating, and we were thinking of making the January little history about him, so.
Oh, terrific. Another proud reason to.
I think there's and I didn't get a chance to look at it, look through it today, but it seems to me that there's a building in Melrose that's called the Julian Steele building, and we might check that out, which is a affordable housing building, and I just.
Well, it's interesting, because it says he was connected with affordable housing.
Right.
Big time.
Yes.
Well, absolutely. Do you need a
Okay.
vote from us, or do you want?
I just wanted, I don't want to do anything like that without notifying you and making sure that.
I think it's a
okay.
great idea,
Well,
yeah.
I think it's an awesome idea, but there's probably some components to it. So we don't know how big the plaque's gonna be. We don't know where you actually want it in the town hall, so I think after there might need to be a discussion. Bob James is a very busy person. Hopefully there's not a water break somewhere. He's in the water commission. That, I think would need a discussion about.
Okay, so,
About,
so.
you know, I think we're all for it, correct?
What about, do we have it there, do we have a, I was thinking, do we have a podium that's in the Old Town Hall, that it could be on that, perhaps?
So that's when he was town moderator, that's where he would have been moderating in the old
Right.
town.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's definitely an appropriate place.
So we will, the commission, work on some specifics and propose them to you? Does that make sense going forward? Okay.
Where this would be a CPC proposal, anything would come to this board for recommendation anyway. So do you want to see something before then, or do you want to see it in the CPC proposal, or maybe see it before it's submitted to CPC in the late summer, early fall?
I don't think I have to. I think I would and trust, I mean, just from this, I would think that you guys would do something that would be respectful and be, you know, deserving of his service to the town and stuff. But I just wanted to, I
Oh,
have
yeah.
to say, being a selectman, that we say, okay, yes, and all of a sudden there's I'm being facetious, a neon sign in the inside, and we go, what happened? And you said, well, you guys told us we could put a sign inside. So, you know, just so we know where it's gonna be and how, you know, just a brief conversation.
Just a question, you know, because not that many people go inside town hall, would there be any sense in making it more visible by being on the outside?
I'm certainly open to all sorts of ideas.
I mean, you know, some people might not want a sign on the outside of the town hall. I just thought
And-
we were thinking about that, because it's, you know, it's unique. You know, he was unique, and it's, you know, it's kind of a unique commemoration, so do you want?
We could do that. I think you'd need to get through the asphalt.
Yeah.
There isn't much,
Well,
so,
the first thing I thought, when Rick said, when I was saying, well, it's not used very much, so people won't even see it. But then when Rick said, well, we used to have our town meetings and stuff, so it's an appropriate place to have it, then I said, okay, yeah. But just, you know, that.
it certainly could be outside.
You know what I mean? I don't know about that either, but I'm just saying, my first thing was, oh, it's too bad, because sometimes nobody goes in there for 2 months, 3 months. Mike?
Just remember, the town halls in the historic district, you'd have to get approval for the historic district commission.
Outside.
On the outside.
Probably have some ends there. Okay, thank you, terrific, that's awesome.
I did want to point out to the board and to those at home that you do have linked in your packet. There's terrific summary information on each of the 3 proposed historic districts. This is all linked from the Historical Commission website.
Good, thank you. Can we, our next meeting, can we position you in a way that we all can see you at a time? Because I
Sure.
noticed that too before.
Yep.
We always have to come back and it's not good.
Sure.
'Cause I always think I'm a little bit smaller than I really am and people can't see by me but I mean, we can need to position you so we can all kind of like talk back without trying to
Good.
bend our necks. Okay, thank you. Okay, what's next? Request for interdepartmental line item transfers, referrals from Finance Committee. Thanks.
All right, so you have 6 different line item transfers before you, all of which by state statute require both FinCom and Board of Selectmen approval.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
assume you want to take each one individually?
First of all, it might be easier individually, do we have any questions on any of them that we need to discuss, or can we just go down the line?
I did have a question, why the town building operations need, what, why did we have such an overage?
Yeah, and I did meet with the DPW director, so I can give you some background on that. There were a couple of specific cost drivers, specifically unforeseen elevator repairs. They brought it in for its annual inspection, it passed, and then a relatively short time later, the elevator failed, needed repairs. That was somewhat costly. There was also a big cost to add a sprinkler to the conservation office. This is something that had been, I guess, known for some amount of time that there wasn't a sprinkler there, and it came up in conversation between our new DPW director and the fire chief, and once they talked about it and Wayne became aware, it's kind of like you have to deal with it. So they did that. That wasn't really in the budget, but it was one of these things that they felt compelled to do. But the bigger point on this one, I talked to FinCom about it last Tuesday, is in Wayne's transition from Gary. Gary advised that this line is always tight and that it always runs out around this time of year. So Wayne said, well, what would you do? And Gary would either just simply stop doing anything on buildings to the end of the fiscal year, or, you know, I think Wayne is trying to allocate everything to the correct expense line. So I explained to the FinCom, since the proposed DPW budget is essentially level funded from the current year, Wayne basically took the same budget and carried it forward because he started, his budget was due about a month after he started. I think that we can expect over the course of the next year, as Wayne is allocating costs, the way he does it, I think we'll learn about some lines within DPW that might be more or less in terms of budgeting. So basically, it looks like this line's always been really under budgeted. So where it's a line item transfer, it is maintaining the bottom line of the department, but the town building operating expenses have always strained to that line.
Okay.
Remember that electricity used to come out of that line item, and it doesn't anymore, and we're theoretically paying almost nothing for electricity. So all the electricity expense that we used to have was in that line item, and so that saving should be,
Reflected somewhere.
Well,
Should
that's
be
now in a separate
reflected
line item.
somewhere.
That's now in a separate line
it
item.
is now, the line item hasn't changed, and yet we don't take the electricity out of it anymore.
Yes, so something had to go up.
Yeah.
Okay. Rick, did you have any particular questions on anything?
No, I mean, there are National Grid, there are payments to National Grid in here, Archie, and I'm sure they don't total up to what they used to, but of course, there's a difference between, what's left in here represents the 10 or 15% that we still,
Those could be those could be gas.
oh, that's true, okay, right.
The other thing that's worth pointing out is when Wayne started, we were on track to overspend it in terms of year-to-date spending when he began was 10 to 15% higher than we were year-to-date. So he kind of inherited a budget that was already constrained when he started around Thanksgiving.
So, I guess the, I don't know, big question is, if this doesn't happen, what will be lacking then? What is this going to be used for to get us through this fiscal year? We know that?
Yeah, so it's basically, it's proposed to transfer the funds from street paving and repairs, and the FY19 street paving and repairs is going to go toward crack sealing, and so less of that will happen than would otherwise have happened. So there will be, that money otherwise would have gone toward the roads. So
Roads as in guardrails?
no, nope.
The black stuff.
Well, I know
in the
that,
front, yeah.
but are the guardrails taken out of that same line item? I thought they were. Thought the guardrails were taken out of the roads line item.
They are, but when I talked to Wayne about what costs would be
Affected.
he
Got it.
said he talked about that.
Okay, good, because we need some guardrail repairment.
So if you're pulling money out of the crack ceiling, does that have a long-term impact on the longevity of the road surface?
That's a Wayne question, and yeah, I don't want to speculate on that. I will say this, we could bring this back if you want more information. We could bring it back to the next agenda, and I could have Wayne address that or have him attend.
I don't, do you want to?
No.
I mean,
I
it
don't
is,
think
it
so.
is a.
But I think the concerns that we have about the electricity, and like maybe if, a side note of like, hey, what the heck's gone up since electricity's down, and then Rick's, I don't want to speak for you, but Rick's, concern, which is a legitimate one, about, hey, I think there needs to be a better assessment of the cracks, and we do the ones that really need it, rather than just saying, oh, I'm not going to do that section, and not even assessing it. You know what I mean by that? So I think we're going to skimp on it, make sure we're not skimping on the ones that really need it, and, set some type of priorities, need-based.
Another thing that's going to be terrific, starting July 1, is we'll have a new chart of accounts. So we're going to be allocating costs to a much finer grain, which is going to allow us to do much clearer financial reports in terms of you know, what's going where. Whereas right now, like streets and roads, is a bunch of things batched together.
So you
We're gonna
don't
have a
know.
finer grain that we can do on the financial reports.
Yeah, you don't know. It gets all melted together, and we really don't know.
You can do it, but you have to basically download the data and sort it and do some post-production to really get to the answer.
Okay, do we have any other questions?
I don't. I would make a motion to approve the 6 interdepartmental line item transfers.
Under D of our agenda, right? So
Correct.
we don't have to, since it's a state thing that they have to do have to do each one individually and say the amounts, or can we just do it that way? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. You have any questions or anything for you?
Glenn, were you the second?
Yes. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Notification of Finance Committee approval of reserve fund transfer, $8,800 to the Board of Health to fund additional steel landfill monitoring costs as required by Mass DEP by June 14, 2019. Do we have to have any discussion on this, or is it basically what it is, obviously?
I think the
Unforeseen,
materials-
unforeseen costs?
Yeah.
Then, okay. Is this gonna, I'm sorry, Rick, is this gonna be a annual thing, or is this biannual? When is this, so we make sure this gets into the, thank you. At least I asked one good tonight. I said, at least I asked one good question tonight. So,
Do you want to speak to that, Bob, or?
well, if you don't know, if it's a good question, you don't need to.
Well,
The reason why I asked that, if it is, I'd rather have that in the budget, obviously, in the Board of Health budget, so I would try to get some type of answers for them before.
If it comes to that, we have to start doing that, we will.
Okay,
Yeah, it looks like based on what you get for results from this additional testing, you're gonna learn something and then you know, do I go to another step or have?
We'll know probably
Right.
before the next, special town meetings.
Yeah.
okay.
So this isn't anything related to groundwater, this is methane production, right? A completely different thing.
Completely different animal altogether.
Then when you say different from the last things we went through, that's what
Right,
you're talking
right,
about.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Bob, is that something you'll be discussing further at this is a Board of Health issue, so you'll be talking about it further at Board of Health meetings?
will.
Okay.
Yeah.
Be
All
interested in-
Did anyone say if this is sort of a natural occurrence with landfills that through time, they might actually produce more instead of less, or,
I don't know.
yeah.
Ask the engineers, that I don't know, but I would assume that we're gonna have an issue.
Okay, hold on. How much more, I'm not, he needs to be on the microphone, because we're just gonna
Oh,
get
right,
complaints,
okay.
so I don't know if you're gonna ask any more. I thought he was just gonna.
No, okay.
Okay. But Rick asked if you could, anytime this comes up for discussion, could you ping Angus or ping the selectmen? So we have the yes or no if we would like to sit in on it, just to get more informed or ask any questions? Is that what you wanted?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, perfect. So do we have, this is just a notification.
Well, so this
We
is
have to, I
interesting.
thought we didn't have to vote on this anymore.
We don't.
That's
Okay.
correct.
We don't.
Okay.
Yep. Since the form has a place for your signature, I talked to Mike last week and I said, you know, I don't want to rock the boat, and so I put it in front of you just like has happened in the past, but technically you don't need to vote.
So why don't we redo the form?
That's,
And just, and from now on, just give us a notification.
We did redo the form about 6 or 8 years ago, and then now somehow we got the old form back. No, that's what happened.
Okay,
But
so,
just out of curiosity, so if the selectmen no longer have to sign the form or approve the form, would we still be notified of something like this?
yes.
Yeah, that's kind of the point,
Right, okay.
what it was.
Exactly, but if the process is changing, if we don't
We
have
could-
to sign a form.
We could
anymore,
vote
we're
no,
not-
and it
Yeah.
would still, if the FinCom approved it, it would still pass.
Yeah,
But I think
okay.
Rick just
Yeah,
wants to
I-
make sure that-
it's more informational.
so why don't we do this? Anytime that the FinCom approves a reserve fund transfer, even though we don't have to be part of it in the future, if we could be just made aware of it.
Okay, good.
Cool.
Yeah, so the reserve fund is, when the budget's voted, that's, you know, a separate account. That's under the authority of the Finance Committee, just like other departmental accounts are under their authority, as opposed to the line item transfer, which is both board and FinCom approval under state statute.
Okay, sounds good.
So, but I will ask the board's signature tonight, just because until we change the form, if there's a form lying around without signatures, it seems incomplete for
Gotcha.
those who come after us, so.
Review and discussion of priority transportation projects and regional transportation plan. Angus?
So this is something that, you know, I think this is part of the routine federal transportation planning process, which, as you know, is a multi-year process, and so we had been solicited for comments with fairly short turnaround time from MVPC, so we had suggested the addition of one project to the list, which is the Middle Street Bridge, and you can see some dialogue in the packet about the projects that were in there, and MVPC has asked us to prioritize.
Is this the side, is this the one we used to,
And I felt that was more of a board discussion.
is this the one we used to do? We used to say the sidewalks every single year?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, on 113?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
Which is
what's,
still on the
yes,
list.
Yeah.
it is.
Yep.
yeah.
Okay. Okay,
So between.
we have to vote on it, or is this is just, if you're asking us if we want
In
to
terms
put
of
in?
I
priority
didn't,
number?
to be honest, just, I didn't understand the third one. I don't quite understand what it's trying to accomplish, so just for the,
So maybe we could, and we don't think at a staff level, we don't think this is really a, you know, federally,
Appropriate,
it's not
yeah.
of the scale to really justify being on a federal transportation priority list, so, but I don't know if we want to pull things off the list.
You know, one thing, I know Glenn has brought it up in the past, and we talked about it a few years ago. I don't know if this is part of that, but when I saw that, when I saw the thing, I was thinking, you know, it would be nice if there was an occasion, if we had a
Bus
a
stop?
bus stop in town. There is nothing that it goes, everything goes on 110, nothing goes on 113 on this side of the river between Haverhill and 95. So it just, I don't know if that is within the scope of this plan, but it's something that I think should
No,
be.
It came
should
to
be
my
thought
mind too
about.
when I saw it. So if that
We,
can,
we tried, and from what we heard from the,
Doesn't get
it
used
didn't
enough.
seem like it was gonna happen, no.
and we didn't have the ridership or something.
So that would have been connecting with the MVRTA?
Yep.
Right.
We
And
used to
they
have
did not
stops.
wanna come this way.
Yeah.
Jen, we used to have stops, right? Remember, we've been fighting for this forever? I think one of your sons wrote me a letter once, a bunch of years ago, saying that you could ever advocate for some public transportation in those stops. And so we've been trying a lot, but they used to stop in West Newbury, but I think they made a conscious decision that there wasn't enough ridership, so they moved it on the other side of the river,
Yeah.
to go to Haverhill, to Newburyport.
Right.
So I guess the main question to the board is between the bridge and the Main Street, do you want to put a priority on one over the other?
Well, the bridge should be number one.
Yes, bridge. All right with you?
Yeah.
Okay, it's bridge. Okay. Middle Street Bridge update, and now that kind of ties it right in. Middle Street Bridge update and conceptual designs, potential dates and for upcoming public meeting. So we-
Okay, so when we initially put this on the agenda, we had a meeting date scheduled, which I had reviewed with the board and everyone had agreed to. Unfortunately, we heard from Newburyport the second half of last week that that date no longer works for them, so we're back to the drawing board on setting a date for a public meeting. So I've provided them the kind of blackout dates that we have in terms of our scheduled meetings, but the ball is in their court to get to a date. But in the meantime, I wanted to
Why
update
can't we
you.
set some dates?
Well, we could, it's just, it's been envisioned as a joint meeting because
Well, no, I'm saying, we're waiting for a date for them, for us to say yes to. Why can't we give them a date
Oh, we
for them
can.
to say yes
Yeah.
to?
Yeah, I mean, I've suggested to them the first week of June being wide open on our calendar. So I think anything that week would work.
Evening?
Yep.
We're all anticipating this will be an evening meeting?
We'll cross that bridge. Sorry,
So to speak.
couldn't resist.
Yeah, it's fine for me. I have nothing. Okay, that all right with you?
Yeah, as long as we know reasonably soon.
Yeah, we'd like to know ASAP.
Well, we
so
wanna get it out to the
press
public. We
release,
wanna
send
get
out
it-
Notices, send out letters, right.
That's only 2 weeks away. No, 3 weeks away, but whatever.
Just for looking at the different alternatives, I know we're gonna hash it out, but I walked it over the weekend, and where the stones are now on the existing bridge is it's 22 there, 22 feet wide there, and these other ones, they're some of them are the same, and some are proposing it to be 24 feet of roadway. The actual road is on either side of the bridge is actually a little bit less than, it actually, when you get to the granite in the middle of the bridge, it's actually wider there than the existing road on either side of the bridge, just for informational purposes. So maybe, maybe we don't need to go wider. That's
Dave, how much less than 22? It's great that you did that, because I was thinking about that today, only I wasn't in a position to walk out there. So how much under 22 is it? Do you have tape with you?
Well, like I say, the stones, if you picture the bridge on either side, and it's got the railings built into the granite. So between the stones, between the granite pieces of the bridge, it's 22. If you go on the road, say on the West Newbury side, it's maybe 20.
It's 20.
So it's actually widening as you as you're actually on the bridge. So it doesn't seem that if the road is small, obviously we're going to have to adjust the road width too, but 24 may, I'm just thinking if it was working fine, 24 may be
Too much.
overkill. And even looking, and I was even thinking, I'm thinking it through, do we need a sidewalk too? Because it seemed to work relatively well the way the bridge is now without a sidewalk, without incurring, people can have other opinions, I'm sure lots of ideas about it, but without incurring additional costs to add a sidewalk to it, it seems like the 22 that's there now seem to work pretty well. People walk and fish and bike there without incident with the existing bridge.
Fish?
Yeah. I don't know if this is the right time to talk about it when we're not with Newburyport, but I traveled up pretty frequently, or at least when it was open, I traveled up pretty frequently by car or by bicycle, and there's a lot of activity, fishing, a lot of kids, which is a great thing.
Yeah.
What they ought to be doing, but it also, I've seen numerous really close calls with kids in particular. So I think personally the sidewalk would be an important addition. That's my take on it, at least, because I almost unintentionally, almost hit a kid there on
Well,
a bike once.
I don't think anybody would think it would be intentionally, right?
No, but it was one of those things where I pulled over, I was riding my bike, I pulled over and stopped, and just kind of got over it, because I would have killed the kid.
Okay. There's a lot of activity out there.
Because the kids jump off, they don't think about it, they just jump back into the pavement.
Are there any, state requirements when you're building a new bridge that you have to have a sidewalk, or that?
Not in this case.
Okay.
But I'll tell you on the issue of sidewalk, and you see this in the memo, so only one of the concept plans they provided us had sidewalks.
Mhm.
It had it on both sides, so we asked them to provide an updated concept with sidewalk on a single side, which we've been advised verbally has a significant cost reduction relative to two sidewalks, but we haven't yet gotten the updated concept plan and updated cost estimate. I had hoped to have that for tonight's meeting, but the engineer's working on that. So
You think
you'll
one would be
see a
good enough?
later draft with
Yeah,
just one
I
sidewalk
agree
with an
Ed,
updated
22
cost
feet
estimate.
ought to be-
But in terms of the sidewalk itself, I can tell you with the kind of working group with the city and our staff, having a sidewalk alternative is really important, because part of the way we see our job is we need to give people the choice of what they want to do. And the initial round of draft concepts that we got had no sidewalk.
Right.
And so what you're seeing is kind of version 2, then we'll see version 3.
They're just doing 24 feet in the sidewalk, they're not doing 22 feet in the sidewalk.
Right,
Is that correct?
right.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, given the reality that there is a lot of pedestrian and fishing
Yeah,
activity,
but
we
Dave's
feel,
information was really interesting.
morally,
about
we
what
gotta
the actual
have a
widths are.
sidewalk.
Yeah. Sorry, Archie's.
Okay,
but I think that as we get into the funding discussion, I think that's gonna end up being a
driving force.
point of discussion between the West Newbury and Newburyport. in terms
Well, we
of-
got a grant for 500,000. Is that gonna cover it, you think, or you think we're gonna need more?
That's the grant for the soft costs, so. We
Well,
have our
it can be
eye
used
on
for
it.
construction, too.
Well, but there won't be any.
I
left.
know, I'm just being
But we
facetious.
do have our eye on a separate grant to hopefully get help with construction costs.
What,
Oh, good.
what's that other grant for, what's the other grant? for?
It's a
State.
small bridge program,
From MassDOT or?
yeah, yeah.
That we got with Newburyport, we asked, Lenny and Senator Tarr, and they.
Well, so the grant we have for soft costs, and then there's a follow-up to that, which would be the construction costs.
Construction costs.
Right, yeah, no, that's what I was talking about, was the
Yeah.
construction cost grant.
Yeah.
That would be also a Mass DOT grant done.
Mhm.
Okay, anything else on this? Let's, discussion of proposal to consolidate conservation and health staff support. Angus,
All right, so
you guys
have,
here for that, I would assume? You want to come up and talk, or get a microphone, or maybe just sit around, and if we have any questions, then, okay.
So you have a summary memo in your packet. Basically, Archie and I went to the Conservation Commission meeting last week to discuss the concept, and I explained to the commission it's not a proposal at this point. It's really raising the idea for discussion. And there were some concerns raised regarding qualifications, workload, divided supervisory oversight if there was a single position, or if both health positions had responsibilities in both departments, how that would work from a kind of personnel oversight point of view.
Okay,
So the commission, as you know, under state statute, is the appointing authority for its staff. They have gone ahead to advertise the position. So the discussion tonight is regarding if there were to be a change in the current staffing structure, what would be the path to do that if it was found beneficial by both the commission and the town.
and it's my understanding that you have a meeting with the Board of Health on Tuesday.
That's right, it's been placed on their agenda for tomorrow afternoon.
Okay?
So it hasn't been talked about formally with the board. I have talked to the current conservation and health staff, and as noted in the original May 2nd memo, the response seems to be that it could work, subject to a bunch of details being worked out. But
So I guess one of the issues that was brought up at the Conservation Commission is, having one individual with two hats, would the two jurisdictions come into conflict in some situation? In other words, would somebody be saying, this septic system is in compliance, but then with the conservation hat, but the leaching field is encroaching on the wetland? So I guess that's, would you say that's one of the big sticking points?
Well, if we're going to speak, you have
to use the
microphone. Sorry. But isn't that all kind of spelled out, and it's kind of?
No, there is, in terms of that particular issue.
I just used that, I made it up,
The
but yeah.
wetlands regulations have a presumption that a septic system that complies with Title V would be consistent with the interests of the Wetlands Protection Act. It's not an irrebuttable presumption, so you could have some differences of opinion. But to me, the broader question is the Conservation Commission has a different set of regulations. Here's one set, that's the Wetlands Protection Act regulations. There are other manuals that go with it, but beyond wetlands protection, the Conservation Commission has a broader mandate. There's also involvement in agricultural preservation restrictions, some forestry programs, maintenance of some maintenance of open space that's in the within the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission. And I'm just wondering whether the qualifications for the conservation agent, seems to me, go well beyond simply being delineating wetlands or looking at hydric soils. And so you need someone who has a broader perspective.
So could it be that you would give us that job description, like, you know, Phil, so hypothetically, if you were going to get a new person, they would obviously have to meet those qualifications.
Yes.
So if you brought those qualifications to us, and then we all felt that the present health agent could meet all those qualifications, then you wouldn't have a problem with it, that aspect of it.
If that person had all of the qualifications. I mean,
Yeah.
we would want to, but I think we would want to interview people and select the person that we felt was the best fit for the job, not someone who simply, you don't necessarily choose the person just because they meet minimum qualifications. You have.
I would agree with that, but, okay, I understand. Okay.
And also in terms of staffing, you need someone, another part of the agent's job is, and a big part of it, is interacting with the public and people who have questions and concerns. And so you need someone who is conversant, as a working knowledge of the regulations, so that it's not just walking into an office and saying, here's a form, because you need to know what kind of form you are handing out.
I don't think, I think there's a lot of benefits from doing this, and one of them being like there needs to converse with the public. Presently, you only have 20 hours there, but then there would be somebody to be able to maybe answer some questions or get them in the right direction, and that would be, you know, you would be increasing the hours of that. I understand, but I don't think we're going to do this if that person doesn't have those qualifications. You know what I mean? There's an opportunity, and this is the way I'm looking at it. There's an opportunity to maybe combine some hours, not at the detriment of the town. So I just personally didn't want to miss this opportunity when it came here to us. So I wanted to just kind of research it and look at it and see if it will work. If it works, it's terrific, and if it doesn't, it doesn't.
I mean, I think that ideally we would be looking to. We have over past years.
Can you do me a favor? Can you talk into the microphone? I'm sorry for not picking that up earlier.
I mean, over past years, we have brought proposals to change the classification of the conservation agent to make it more consistent with what the job actually involves, and to perhaps increase some hours, because right now there are certain things that get put on a back burner because there aren't enough hours with 20. So if you're combining positions, then, you know, are there going to be enough hours to adequately and properly perform both functions?
Okay. Do you have any questions? I'm taking up all the. You need to bring this closer up because I'm getting a text that we can't hear you. Okay, I just didn't want to take up everybody's time here, but did you have any more questions, or?
No.
But those are very good, legitimate points. I mean, I don't think you would have said them if they weren't.
I try to be legitimate.
So there's nothing that's mutually exclusive between the two positions, as far as you know. Obviously, you know Concom better than health, but from your perspective, there isn't anything that would put the two
At odds?
The only at odds would be if wearing a Board of Health hat, you decided that a septic system was appropriate, would you be looking at it skeptically, or more skeptically, from the Conservation Commission perspective, because there are different interests that are involved?
Yeah, but those interests, like what you said with Title V, they're pretty well mapped out. People really, I mean, they're,
Sure, no, I'm not saying it would be a common problem, but it could be, there could be some instances where they might not, the interests might not be coextensive. As I said, there's a presumption, but it's not an irrebuttable presumption.
the septic system works, and then the Concom says, yeah, the delineation of the wetlands is here, but maybe another Concom person would say it was 5 feet closer. Is that where you're getting at, where there's some ambiguity, a little bit of ambiguity with soils, and it's more of opinion than science, a little bit?
Well,
Is
it's
that
not
what you're
just
getting at?
soils, it's
Or
the
or
wetlands
plants,
are-
or whatever it is. I don't know enough about it, but I'm just trying to get to the question, where there is some science involved in it, but there is some.
It's a combination of art and science.
Okay.
Delineation is a combination
Okay,
of art
that's
and
that's
science.
that's what I was getting to. So there's your, could be one person
Are
could say.
you shading it one way or another in
Yep.
order to?
The wetlands, I believe it's delineated here, and then somebody else could come in and say, no, it's here. And it could, and that could not, you could not have the septic system at that point, hypothetically. That's,
Or variance.
yeah, no, I understand. There's a big science to it. Shh, please do.
One of the qualifications in the job ad is 3 to 5 years of conservation administration experience, so clearly the health agent doesn't have that. So I just wanted to point that out. That's pretty standard in all conservation agent postings that I've looked at least 3 years of prior experience, either as an assistant or actually as the administrator. The other thing that I did was reach out to the Mass Association of Conservation Commissioners, that's the statewide group, and just to see if there's any precedent for this. And they said there's only been one other town that combined the health agent and the Concom agent, and it only lasted a couple years, and then they dissolved it and separated them again. Typically planners
Yeah,
and,
but we don't know the reason why.
but
or-
only one out of the entire Commonwealth. Typically planning, if there's
Maybe
gonna
they're
be-
not as forward-thinking as we are.
But it's a different set of skills. I think
I understand.
that's why maybe
I understand.
our health agent has some of the skills that the Concom agent has, and, maybe it could work, but it's not typically.
So why don't you guys come up with what the qualifications, that what,
We have it. They're posted
Okay.
online right now.
okay, good,
yeah.
okay. So obviously, the health agent would have to meet those qualifications minimally. And I understand that you don't look for minimally qualifications, but at least minimally.
Yeah.
And then see how we can go from there, only if.
Yeah, so right now.
It's worth a discussion.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
that's
is.
what it's about. I just didn't want to miss an opportunity. That's it. Me personally, I can't speak for these two. Okay, thank you. Is there anything else? Nothing, right? Okay, Board of Selectmen's reorganization, we generally do this, have it the last item on the agenda to be effective our next meeting after an election. What do you guys want to do? Up to you two. We have to, generally we have to pick a chairman and a clerk. Clerk is basically if we have a meeting and to take minutes if somebody else isn't around.
Voluminous minutes.
Well, I mean, we do need to reorganize. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
it is, well, I don't know if we need to, but we always do.
Okay.
I don't know if the need portion of it.
Well, I would nominate Archie for chair.
Okay.
Perfect. I'll second that. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'd nominate Rick as the clerk.
Second.
Good way to get your feet wet real quick. It's one of those positions that if you go to the bathroom, you get nominated and then voted on before you get back. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, perfect. Okay, well, I'm just gonna, you mind if I continue?
No, keep going.
Just, okay, town manager updates?
Okay, the first item on the agenda is an update on active projects. And I have a handout, you're just seeing it now, and I'm not gonna go through it. It's just a handout for you to review. But basically, it's, what I tried to do is put together everything that's kind of ongoing in my office. And actually, I'll show you. So what I've done is put together so oh, it's not showing up on the screen like it is on my. That's funny. Jen, see how this is here and it's not there? Okay, well, I'll just hand these over to you.
You're doing too much, Angus. You crashed the server. Yeah.
There you go. Here you go, Archie. So what I've done is taken everything that's active and ongoing, and I broke it, first of all, into 5 categories, and then within each category, assigned it based on my own subjective judgment, what's vital, important, or optional. So each of those 3 boxes, and then present and future. And I like this system because it allows you to say something is really important, but it's a future important issue, and we need to, focus on the present important.
Not too many optionals in here.
No, not a lot of optionals, a couple, but, so there's a lot of information packed in here. It's basically reformatting some of what you've seen before in terms of long lists of things. But what I'd like to do is work with the board over the next 6 to 8 weeks, with the goal of, by, say, the first half of July, to have maybe a similar work product, but that's reflective of the board's statement of priorities, because I think that can be helpful in my work as manager, working with other departments, and also with committees and boards and commissions to some extent, on taking the town-wide priorities that this board establishes and helping to allocate those around through the organization. But at a minimum, what you have certainly gives you some clear insight into kind of what my office is doing day to day. And just to pick a couple of things, there shouldn't be anything in here that's unfamiliar to you, but something like the new accounting software and the new chart of accounts is just, it's hard to describe how much time I should be putting in on that in my capacity as finance director. That with the town meeting and the election, it's been hard to find the time, so I'm, between now and the end of June, these 6 or so weeks, is really precious time. I have a tremendous backlog, so I think that it'd be good to get something on the calendar in July, and we can talk about it on an interim basis before then. I just think it's going to take this board a little while to digest all of this, and then get to where we have some. I do like this format. I like, it's something I've used over the years, and I think it helps to break down the list into, okay, both level of importance as well as timing, which in my experience, a lot of prioritization exercises fail to address the timing issue, because everything ends up being a top priority, which effectively means nothing is.
So you're not going to wait for our list
No.
and kind of marry them together. You're going to keep on working on the vital things and the important things.
This is
and
all ongoing.
Yeah, so this
stuff,
is
and-
basically everything you do every day.
Right.
And then you're just looking for maybe some feedback that we could add to this list, something that we have. I'll give her my copy, and then you can.
I do have an extra. It's my, as you know, it's my work product. It's not something the board's endorsed, so.
Do you have any questions specifically to it?
I don't have any questions on this list yet, because of, like.
Yeah, I mean, you're just seeing it for the
digest
first
it.
time.
Okay.
I do, at some point, have a question regarding another issue that, would maybe end up being incorporated on this list, as maybe as a selectman issue. So, wanna talk
issue
about-
or a thing?
Something else something I personally would like to look into.
Okay.
Being a member of the select.
Do you want to?
Well, I'll just say, it's related to the school. I'd like to the new school, the new school to be. There was some, yeah, sorry.
Sorry, I don't mean to be a pain on
That's
that.
fine, I'm sorry, I just forget about it. So, there was investigation of the potential of using geothermal for heating and cooling of the building. And I understand that the architect has done a phenomenal job getting us to where we are. I mean, just the fact that we came over the finish line the way we did speaks to that. But, given the emphasis that the state is now putting on, decarbonizing and, figuring out ways that we're not gonna be burning fossil fuels, I'd like to look into that. I'd like to approach the architect, I'd like to approach the school building committee and talk with them about approaching the state to find out what other programs might be in the pipeline. Because we're building something that's gonna last 50 or more years. And if it's built now to use natural gas, there's a reasonable probability that it's gonna use natural gas for 50 years. And that's not where we wanna be. That's not where we can be 50 years from now. So I would personally like to explore that, and I would take the load for doing it. I'll put the time.
So, how do you want to do that?
Well, first of all, I'm glad you brought it up tonight, because
Okay.
as you know, now that the
Well,
vote's there.
exactly.
I mean,
yeah, so-
Now
Okay.
is the
Yeah.
time to do it.
Secondly,
Right.
Glenn and I are both members of the school building
Okay.
committee, which
Okay.
next meets tomorrow night. So
Okay.
if there's no objection, I mean, we can put this on the table tomorrow. And
Okay.
I can call superintendent tomorrow during the day and just make sure I understand the backstory if they've
Okay.
looked at it. I'm not aware they have. It's not something that's come up at the school building meetings I've been at.
It did come up in conversation, and
Mhm.
so they've looked at it. And I don't know how deep a look it was, but they looked at it and concluded that from an economic standpoint, it wasn't gonna cut it based on, where we had, where we had to be, where the project had to be in order for it to be voted. The question is, what incentives might be coming or might become available from the state
To make it affordable.
to make it affordable. Maybe we set, maybe we set a precedent with the state. I don't know, but, if we don't try to do it now, it'll never happen. So this is the time to
It's
try
like
to
the
do it.
missed opportunity, like I
Right.
said about the Board of Health.
Exactly, right.
So, you want us to bring it up? You want Rick to come? What do you want to do?
I think my approach would be talk to the superintendent tomorrow, let him know it came up, just hear from him about the backstory, and then either talk to Brad Dorr directly or let it come up tomorrow night. But I think we ought to bring it up and just with the school building committee, because even if it's been looked at, nothing's been shared with the school building committee, at least in my tenure.
Yeah.
Might have come up earlier. That's
Might have.
committee's been
I don't
meeting
remember.
for years.
I don't remember it ever coming.
Brad mentioned that it had been explored, and I don't know how deeply, but they did some analysis of it and concluded that there were economic factors that, prevented them from taking that any farther. But I think it's worth looking into it.
So we bring it up, and then, come on up. We bring it up, and then we'll give it, we'll see where it leads, and you can take the lead.
Rick, maybe also is that this is something that we could suggest that the town would be willing to dedicate its green community grant money to that, even though,
Right. I can't imagine why people would object to that, but
no, I mean, actually, but that's kind of the idea of a promise from this town saying, yeah, we have this availability, we'll work to try to get it. And then maybe that's one of the things you could suggest to them. And I don't know if the other towns, green communities also?
I think Merrimack may have just become a green community or was working towards it. I don't recall for sure. To the best of my knowledge, Groveland, I don't think has.
I don't think Groveland.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But, I mean, and also maybe do it from then you'd, and then at that point, maybe with at least a little bit, the delta between what they would have to build and what you'd want
Right.
could be covered.
Yeah, I mean, my guess is, we're gonna have to try to pick up a lot of pieces from a lot of places in order to make it make sense.
Mhm.
But, it's for a building that's gonna last for a long time.
Right.
Okay. Okay, next, update on the Memorial Day Parade.
All right, so we are hard at work on this. We've got a lot of commitments that equal and exceed actually prior years. So we've still got a lot of logistics ahead of us in terms of sequencing, both setting up the staging area. I'd like to have a map. They haven't had a map in the past, but we've got, for instance, the 215th Army Band is going to be participating,
Nice.
which they
Cool.
haven't in the past. So between them, the high school band, we've got a fife and drum band, so we've got to make sure the music's spaced out so it doesn't overpower each other.
And the muskets aren't like close to us.
Right
there
in
So,
Joe almost had a heart attack.
yeah, we've got, it's basically a daily effort, and Teresa's been terrific in helping me.
Well, thank you.
And police and fire as well. So what I can do, since I don't have anything to present to you that's concise, I have my own kind of spreadsheet with a bunch of details on it, but I could send you out an update in the next day or so, because I know each of the selectmen will have a role in terms of the ceremony, and I want to get clear on who wants to give the opening and who wants to ask the veterans to stand and all of those things that you've done in the past.
And you have the people who have deceased, you'll have that for us?
Yep, we've got that. And we sent out letters to 171 local veterans inviting their participation.
I
in the
saw that,
parade.
yeah, that letter, the form letter, actually, whatever it was. It was
So,
nice. Okay, great.
it's 2 weeks
Excellent.
from today, so.
So can you send that out to us, and we can decide on our next open meeting?
Yep.
Who wants to do
Well,
what?
the next open meeting's gonna be after the parade, so, it might
When's the
need to be-
parade?
It's 2 weeks from today,
Which is
It's 2 weeks from today.
yeah.
2 weeks from today, and our next meeting would be on the
2
Tuesday.
weeks plus
Right.
1 day.
It's 2 weeks from today already, and it's gonna snow in Massachusetts today?
Yes.
Okay.
You're
Well,
not supposed to put your tomatoes in until Memorial Day, that's
Yeah,
why.
I know. Okay, I don't know.
So what I'll do, I'll send out a detailed update via email, and then you can get back to me. with
Will you
questions
have,
or-
will you have, an outline of the ceremony?
Yes.
And the things that need to happen?
Mhm.
The ceremonial things that need to happen?
Yep.
And then maybe we might want to add something to it.
Good.
I don't know if we do or don't, but.
So
Yeah,
how do we arrive at a decision without meeting?
We can do, can we do that, we're not deliber,
Call that scheduling.
yeah, it's yeah, that's all it is scheduling, so it's
Yeah, I mean,
not,
it's not, it's not,
Okay.
I don't know how it's been done in the past, but I don't.
No, it's
know,
more
I
of
see it as
informal
like
thing.
I think we
decision
decided
as
like
much as,
5 minutes
you know.
before.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds fine.
yeah, so it's scheduled, it's not, there's no vote going to be taken that's going to have any effect on an open meeting law violation. It's just basically scheduling who's going to say what, and like who does the opening, who's going to introduce the kids that say if they're going to do it, or
Yep, they're gonna do it.
Boy Scouts and,
Yep, we got
thank
Boy Scouts,
people
Girl
and-
Scouts, actually, if you want, I can give you kind of the.
No.
Got the,
going to be an early meeting.
okay.
Okay, vendor selection for the prepared 2010 OPEB actuarial full evaluation FY '20 cost per GASB 7475.
GASB. So, yeah, I'd like to make a change on vendor for the OPEB valuation. It's a little bit more expensive, but we had some issues with the former, but also more importantly, it's a big firm that handles tons and tons of people, and we had been in touch with this KMS firm on the advice of the auditor, who he recommended. They're more hands-on with small towns, and they're more kind of fully engaged with us at the staff level than just, you send them the data, they send you this big thick report. This firm I'm recommending, or that I would intend to award the contract to is KMS Actuaries. So we got a quote from them, we got a quote from USI, and
Is it in the budget?
yes, it's in the budget. So
So do you need our approval, or is this you're just telling us?
I'm just telling you.
Thank you.
So Angus, does this come out of the OPEB account, or it comes out of a finance department?
Finance
account?
Department operating budget.
Okay.
You have any questions on it?
No.
Any more? Okay. Follow up on meeting assignments, it's basically, I guess, nothing really. The only follow-up meeting assignment we kind of have tonight was to talk to the building committee tomorrow about what Rick had to say. So that's good. Placing things on future agenda. What we need to do is, how are we gonna handle appointments this year?
So,
That's gonna be-
you'll see that on my list.
Okay.
Because, I would look to the board for guidance. What I had anticipated is sending out a note to all current board, committee, commission members, letting them know their term's up, and setting a time for them to express if they are interested in reappointment or not. Is that
Okay.
roughly how it's been done in the past?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sooner the better.
Yep,
The more we can start doing it, so it doesn't take up a whole night, that would be good.
right.
And we have to reorganize in the sense that what we, Like
Yeah,
a-
we have to put,
like CIC stuff, who's on the CIC, who's on the school building committee one, who's on,
all those things, yeah.
all those type of things. So if we could have a list of those too, because those seem to have changed since recent years, haven't they?
Well,
Because-
there isn't the
Little bit, yeah.
school finance board
Yeah,
that we
there's a
have.
few.
We don't have that anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll put that on for the 28th for an update.
Is there anything you want on future agenda at this point, other than talking about well, you would like an update on what the school, you want to have some type of discussion on what the school said on our next open meeting, right?
I mean, I'd be happy to sit in on the meeting, just sit,
I would come.
Huh?
I would come tomorrow.
yeah, okay, yeah.
I
So
would.
I'll do that and I'll hear.
Because there could be some questions, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Rather than get them out
Right.
sooner than later.
Sounds fine. Okay, so I'll be there tomorrow night for that.
I had something I wanted to talk about in terms of, and a nearby, a butter to the school campus was concerned about contractor parking and all that when the school is actually going to be worked on. And the same way that we were kind of proactive about the neighborhood around when the water tower get built, I think it's always better to solve the problem before it becomes a problem. So that if we can address how parking, not necessarily by the students, but by the contract, because contractors show up and they put their cars wherever they want quite often. That's just the way, the nature of the beast. And so I had someone that lives right near there express those concerns to me, and I said, we'll try to address that proactively. So I think that's something to think about.
Anything that I've seen, they do have some designated parking, and I think they've thought of it.
Yeah.
And then the
For contractors?
correct.
Yep.
And then the application of it, though, and making sure that what you said, that it's being adhered to, and if it's not being adhered to, like who does the neighborhood contact and so forth. So maybe we might suggest tomorrow night to have maybe a neighborhood meeting and invite all the neighborhood in.
That's a great idea.
And talk to them exactly what really is going to happen and what stages it's going to be at this
And
point.
even things like, depending upon the weather, you digging a big hole there, a lot of earth moving, dust control, all that kind
Well,
of
we
stuff.
have bylaws that are,
Yeah,
I know, but
I've had
we have bylaws,
I've
but
had a conversation where there's some similar concerns, about basically disruption because of the project, which,
It's gonna
I
be-
mean, it's
it's gonna be
inevitable, it's
huge
gonna be
construction.
disruption.
Yeah.
But to at least, to sort of, as baseline.
stay ahead of it.
Yeah, exactly, so
Okay.
that everybody's respectful of the fact.
So does that sound good to you? Does that meet your needs, your conversations, and meet the conversations you had with the neighborhood and yours? That if we bring it up tomorrow about the concerns, obviously, because they'll be coming from us and not any of the other selectmen, or any of the
Right,
representatives.
But
and then we have
ultimately, any kind of parking things would be
us too.
West Newbury's problem. yeah.
Yep, and then we would ask maybe if they could open it up to the neighborhood and listen to them, and tell them what they're thinking.
So who would
The architect.
open it up to the neighborhood?
Probably
Us or
the selectmen, us, and, excuse me, my suggestion, let's talk about it. The superintendent, obviously, the architect who's gonna be running the
I
whole thing.
mean, we don't have a general contractor yet.
Yeah,
That's
but the
gonna be,
architect, because he's gonna set out the scope of work that they're gonna be building on, and there are some preliminary drawings, what you're speaking of, and, us, just to stay ahead of it, and maybe we need another one when when the general contractor is awarded.
okay.
I mean, I don't think we can't have enough.
On the question of parking and neighborhood impacts, we had a comment coming through the website about 2 weeks ago, and I'm thinking it might be the same resident, but at the time I had
Well,
contacted.
I told him to contact the the
Okay,
board,
yeah, so someone in the immediately abutting neighborhood put in a comment through the website raising those concerns about during construction and contractor parking as well. So I checked with the architect and I responded to the resident. What I'll do is share that correspondence with the board. I think the bigger set of issues is, I think the idea of a neighborhood meeting, I think is a terrific idea, because between hours of construction, parking, dust, noise, all of this stuff, I think that
Weekend work,
really a good
everything.
move. So
The trucks show up at 6:30 or 6 o'clock or 5:30 to start work. It's, there's gonna be disruption.
But the short answer on the parking was both that the proposed school will have the same number of spaces as the current 2 schools, roughly, and that there is a staging plan that provides for contractor parking during construction. But that was it. I mean, it was kind of general responses, but, I think if we have a neighborhood meeting, we can get into the details more.
Okay, Rick, did you have anything else you want?
So, this is something that came up probably 2 or 3 years ago. We approached, as a member of the Energy Committee, we approached the Selectmen at that point about a potential use for our very small industrial district, which is a very difficult piece of property and maybe can never be used for anything. But
Things go out there to die.
But I think we should really explore that and figure out if there's anything that can be done with it. It's complicated because it doesn't have frontage. It has, the only road frontage it has is on I-95, which isn't legal road frontage. So, it abuts state land, which has frontage on Scotland Road. There are some real issues, but I would really like to explore that piece of land and figure out if there's anything that can be done. We talk about trying to come up with ways that we can reduce tax burden. If we could ever figure out a way to use that for an industrial purpose, industrial kind of, quote unquote, a big field. If there was a way we could figure out a use for that land and derive, a new tax base.
Would that be a better thing for this, the document that he passed out tonight?
Could be, yeah.
Yeah, that would be one of our selectmen's things, that one thing we want to work on, that we would put in here. That's not vital, but it's important, or not optional, but something we could put into the pipeline and start working on.
Yeah.
Is that what you're
I
looking?
agree, yeah, and I met with Leah on this very topic fairly early in my time here.
Okay.
And it might be if it's a priority of the board, it might be a good thing to ask the planning department to give a report of what would be the constraints on access, and then you decide if those are insurmountable or if it's worth the effort.
Okay. Anything else?
I actually have a list of things at home, and I didn't come prepared.
But is that for this, or is that something you want to put on next? This is just like, hey, let's put it on next meeting.
Okay, no, it'll be for our longer term.
Excellent. Do you have anything you want to put on
No.
for Tuesday? Make a motion to adjourn
To executive session.
to executive session. To go into executive session, and we will adjourn out of executive session, just to adjourn for the,
What's the reason?
as stated on the,
The same one that you announced at the beginning of the meeting?
correct. We just didn't have enough time. We have one more two more actually, that we have to talk about, because we didn't.
Get to them.
Yep, exactly.
So I had
Rick and I are now on the board.
So I had a motion, was there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.